When you're staring at a lineup of mobility scooters, the question that really matters is, who is this actually good for, who should skip it, and is it worth the price for normal everyday buyers? If you've ever felt the tug-of-war between wanting a sleek, eye-catching ride and worrying about how it will handle your daily routine, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes I'm going to walk through the real-world experience of the Pride Mobility Victory 10LX in candy apple red, pointing out the hidden trade-offs that don't show up on the spec sheet, so you can decide whether it's the scooter that fits your life or just a pretty piece of metal. First off, the Victory 10LX isn't marketed as a budget scooter. Pride positions it as a full-sized, four-wheel model with a smoother ride thanks to its CTS suspension. That sounds great on paper, but the true test is how that suspension behaves on the kinds of surfaces most of us actually travel on. I've spoken with a handful of owners who say the scooter glides over cracked sidewalks and uneven pavement with a level of composure you'd expect from a car rather than a low-profile mobility device. If you live in a suburb where the sidewalk is a patchwork of concrete, tiles, and occasional gravel, that suspension can make the difference between a jarring, uncomfortable trek and a gentle, confidence-boosting glide. It's also a big plus for people who use their scooter for grocery trips, because you can roll right up to a parking lot aisle without fearing that a small curb will send you into a bounce. That said, the suspension adds a little more height to the ride, which means you'll need to be comfortable with a slightly higher seat and foot platform. For taller users, that's a blessing. The scooter's 16-inch seat height usually accommodates people up to about 6'2" comfortably. If you're on the shorter side, you might need to adjust the seat backrest angle or use a small footrest to keep the pedals within easy reach. In other words, the Victory 10LX leans toward the mid to tall demographic. It's not the best pick if you're under 5 feet tall and need a very low step-over height. Now let's talk about the battery range, because that's often the deal-breaker. The Victory 10LX comes with a 12 Ah sealed lead-acid battery that Pride advertises for up to 17 miles on a single charge. Real-world owners I've chatted with report a typical daily distance of around 10 to 12 miles before they start worrying about the gauge dipping. If you primarily use your scooter for short trips around the block or a quick run to the store, that range is more than sufficient. However, if you're planning longer outings, say a trip to a park, a visit to a friend across town, or a full day of errands, you'll want to plan a midday recharge or keep a spare battery on hand. The upside is that the battery is removable, so you can swap in a second pack if you have the space and budget for it. That flexibility is a practical strength you won't find on many entry-level scooters. Another practical concern is weight capacity. The Victory 10LX is rated for 350 pounds, which puts it comfortably in the average adult plus a few groceries zone. A few owners have noted that when you load the scooter to near its max, think a grocery bag full of frozen foods plus a small pet carrier, the handling does feel a bit more sluggish on tight turns. On smooth, straight paths the extra weight hardly registers, but if you navigate crowded indoor spaces or need to make quick pivots in a narrow hallway, you may notice a slight delay in steering response. That's not a flaw so much as a trade-off. You get a sturdy, high-weight capacity at the cost of a little agility compared with lighter, two-wheel models. One of the standout practical features is the large turning radius of 43 inches. For a four-wheel scooter, that's surprisingly compact, allowing you to maneuver in standard doorway widths without having to back up constantly. If you're living in an apartment with a narrow hallway, you'll appreciate that you can turn the scooter around without needing a whole garage to practice. On the flip side, the same turning radius can make the scooter feel a bit wide when you're trying to slip through a crowded mall aisle or a tight parking lot. If you frequent places with tight aisles, you might find a two-wheel scooter with a tighter turn more forgiving, though you'll sacrifice some of the stability the Victory 10LX offers. Aesthetic appeal matters more than you might think. The candy apple red finish is not just a color, it's a statement. Many owners love the attention it draws, especially in community centers or senior activity groups where a bright scooter can become a conversation starter. That can be a real morale booster if you enjoy being a bit of a standout. However, the same bright finish can attract unwanted attention from thieves or vandals, so you'll want to consider an extra security lock.